A young woman, Haley, came back from a run and went straight to her sister Sienna's room to wake her up. Sienna was not happy with getting up, but Haley reminded her she had invested too much for her to get better, so she must get up. Later, Haley and her boyfriend Josh and Sienna prepare for a camping trip. They loaded their things and drove to a secluded place in the forest. Once they reached there, Josh and Haley walked in the forest while talking about the calmness of the place. Josh told her he was ready to try for a baby, making her laugh at the sudden decision. They got in their tent and closed it. Meanwhile, Sienna was looking for a signal and went further into the woods. There she witnessed a giant spaceship, and she quickly ran back and called Josh and Haley, and the trio looked at the ship in amazement. As the ship started to come down, Haley sensed danger. The person Sienna was trying to call screamed through the phone, and suddenly they started hearing a high-frequency sound that made them lose consciousness. Later that night, Haley woke up and found herself on the ground, and she saw Josh next to her and woke him up. Sienna also woke up, and they started asking each other what happened, but none of them knew. They decided to get into their car to reach the radio and gathered themselves to start walking, and they started walking in the woods, but they heard a thudding voice and they saw an explosion from afar. Shocked, Sienna told them that they should get going, and Haley was not on board with this, telling them that there was no point in going back. She asked Sienna to go with Josh and to check the radio while she stayed behind by the tent, and Josh and Sienna reached the car, but Josh announced that the radio was not working, and he then took out flashlights from the trunk, and they started walking back to Haley. As they were walking, they heard a sound from behind that startled them, but Josh rushed Sienna, and they walked back to the tent. Haley had made a fire and was waiting for them, and they all sat around a fire, and Sienna asked for food and water. Josh gave her water, and as she was drinking, she heard an animal sound from the forest. She lit her flashlight to take a look, and she saw a person behind a tree. The woman then started approaching them, crawling, and black liquid was coming out of the house. She fell before racing them, and as Josh tried to check her pulse, she scratched him, prompting him to hit her, and the woman then made an animalistic sound, which was repeated by other sounds in the forest. The three then gathered their tent and started walking, and as they were walking, they encountered a man who warned them that there were a lot of other altered humans like the group that they just encountered. And as the four of them increased their pace and kept walking, one of the altered humans sensed their presence and came to attack, and they all attempted to run, but Josh fell down, and as the altered human came close, the man who was leading them, Liam, stabbed her, saving Josh. The others sensed that one of them had died and stopped following them because they were outnumbered, and the four of them kept their walk in the woods. But this is when Sienna got paranoid, but Haley managed to calm her down and they kept walking. They reached a place they could camp in, and Liam told them that they would have to follow his rule if they were going to stay with him, and he then ordered that they have to stay out of his tent, especially Sienna. Later that night, they saw a helicopter hovering above, and Josh took a signal flare to show the helicopter that they were down there, and after hearing where he was going, Liam followed him, and Josh lit the flare and started waving it, but Josh came running and tackled him to the ground. Josh managed to throw him off of him and then started strangling Liam, but Haley came and tried to push Josh away. Josh was possessed with something and he didn't hear anything, and Haley managed to push him away and he came back to himself, but Liam was still pissed by this and scolded Josh, saying that he revealed where they were for the attackers and then stormed away. Josh told Haley that it was not himself that was strangling Liam, and they both knew that it was the scratch on his hand that was altering his behavior. Liam went back to where Sienna was and gathered his belongings to leave, and Sienna begged him to stay, and after a little back and forth, he decided to stay. As they all gathered to stay, Sienna noticed that the wound on Josh's hand had gotten worse and pointed it out loudly. She was scared that he was turning into one of them, and Haley told her that they would deal with it because she doesn't want Liam to know about this. The next morning, Josh attempted to fix the radio Liam gave him, and Haley noticed the radio was a shortwave radio, and they realized whoever originally put the radio in the tent was in range of a bigger base. Meanwhile, Liam approached Sienna and offered her a drug, and Sienna was a recovering addict, and she hesitated before taking it, but she eventually took the pill. Josh walked in the woods alone and realized that his situation was getting worse and got irritated by it, and meanwhile, Haley went out to get water from a river and heard a sound from the nearby tunnel. Josh saw Sienna dancing by herself and approached her, and she pulled him inside and started dancing with him, and as they were dancing, Haley came and saw them together. When she saw Sienna, she realized that she was high. Haley angrily approached Liam and asked what he gave her, and Liam nonchalantly told her that it was not time for withdrawal. They argued for a while and Haley revealed that the water was contaminated, and Liam told them to wait for the rain, but they couldn't depend on it either. Haley begins to feel that they should leave this place, and Haley then took Josh to the tunnel and showed him where a sound was coming from, and she realized that it was not safe out there. Liam, back in his tent, was throwing stuff out of frustration, and he then went out and told Josh that they should go and get water. As they left, Haley looked for Sienna and found her in Liam's tent, and she was drinking, and when she attempted to take the bottle away, Sienna pushed her away and she then started hitting Haley, but Haley managed to calm her down. In the woods, Josh was tired and sick, and he was also scared that they would get attacked by the altered humans, but they kept going. Back in the tent, Haley and Sienna got into an argument about Sienna's drug usage, and Haley got angry and stormed out. In the woods, Josh accused Liam of drugging Sienna, and Liam then turned and accused Josh of not keeping the two women safe, and he then pushed him to the ground and blamed him and Haley for abandoning Sienna. Josh, trying to calm him down, told Liam if something happens to him, Liam is going to be the only one that they will have. Liam then helped him up and they kept walking to get water, and they finally found the water and verified that it was clean, and as they were filling their bottles, they saw a body nearby and approached it. It was a woman who had been shot in the head, and Josh mentions that there was no blood, but Liam rushed him to get out of there quickly. After filling all their bottles, Josh picked up his backpack, felt an immense pain that made him scream, and Liam asked to take a look at the wound, but Josh didn't want him to see. Haley walked further from the tent after the fight looking for a radio signal. Meanwhile, Liam and Josh were going back to the tent, and suddenly, a group of altered humans ambushed them. Liam got overpowered, but Josh managed to get them off of him, and Liam called for Josh's help, but Josh was once again overtaken by something. He finally managed to come back to himself and killed the person that was attacking Liam, and they saw more of them coming in their direction, and they ran away only to be surrounded by them. Liam took out a gun, but Josh was taken over by another force, took his hand down, and as one of the altered humans approached to attack Liam, Josh managed to force his hand with a knife up and stabbed her, and they ran away and hid under a tree, and Liam pointed a gun at Josh's head. Liam and Josh went back to the campsite, and Josh told Haley that Liam knows about him now, and he also can't control himself anymore, and the situation is getting worse. Sienna went to Liam's tent to apologize, and she kissed him, but Liam offered drugs instead, and Sienna took one and gave him another one, and back at their own tent, Haley was looking at Josh, trembling and murmuring in his sleep. Haley got out and walked to the tunnel, and there she tucked her bag in the tunnel and put a water container near. When she came back, she saw that Josh wasn't there, and she rushed to Liam's tent and told him that something had happened to the tent and they should go back and look for him. Josh was walking in the woods and his situation had gotten worse, and Sienna found him and attempted to call him, but to no avail. Liam came and told her that he's far too gone and is better to kill him, but Sienna insisted that they take him back. Haley took him back to Liam's tent and tried to help him, but Liam pulled his gun and told Haley that he was turning and was dangerous. Sienna got in the middle and managed to convince Liam to give him time, and he told them that he would give them an hour and stormed out of the tent. After an hour, Liam came back and asked Haley to get off Josh. When she ignored him, Liam sat and told her that he had seen his friends change before and the best thing they could do for him was to kill him. He then tied both Josh and Haley and injected Josh with something. He sat next to him and reassured Haley that he would try to make it painless. Sienna came back to the tent after seeing the bag in the tunnel and hit Haley, and Liam and Haley went to the other tent, and Liam gave Sienna a syringe filled with drugs, reassuring her that he would not abandon her. Josh regained consciousness and started hitting his head on the metal rod of the tent, and Haley begged him to stop, but he kept doing it, and he asked her to help him, but she was tied and couldn't help. He then kept hitting his head and eventually died. After a while, he started moving and got up, and when he does, he was now an altered human. He untied his hands with ease and crawled to Haley, and he untied her hands and kept looking at her without doing anything. When she got out, Liam pulled his gun out and forced her to go back. Josh was growling inside the tent, and Liam fired his gun and Josh got out, and Sienna tried to convince Liam to lower his gun, but he tried to manipulate her into thinking that she was going to leave her with Josh and take all the supplies. And Sienna then attacked Liam, and using this distraction, the two ran away. Josh went to Liam and drilled a hole in his head with his finger, while the two women escaped in the woods. Haley and Sienna reconciled and walked together, and suddenly they heard a sound and saw an altered human from afar. He then turned and started running toward them, and they both ran, but he got to them and attacked Haley, and she started experiencing the symptoms at that moment, and in a white vision, she was met by Josh and Sienna. When she comes back to reality, she sees Sienna on the ground with a hole in her forehead, and she walked and started crying over the loss of her sister, and she was also bleeding from her abdomen where the attacker had stabbed her. She then went to where she saw the alien ship at first, and she began to walk toward it.